Welcome to this topic video on using Express.js and templates to produce websites. We're going to see how template engines are used for server-side rendering. Okay. We are going to see Nunjucks template inheritance. And I know that's a fancy sounding word, but we're going to see it's not that complicated. And we're going to use that to produce a lot of different templates for different pages on our site while avoiding repetition. Okay, we don't want to repeat ourselves. That's where it's coming in. We're going to use Nunjucks templates in addition to render tables or lists based on JavaScript data, mostly JavaScript arrays. Okay, so what do we have for references? We have an example code. We've got one of our simplest template examples is actually in our Express example zip. And then we have an entire separate example. That's this whole web page I'm going to show you going through. That's in the Express template zip. So download those guys, unzip them someplace, run npm install to get your node modules and such like that. More details about templating with Nunjucks and in template inheritance with Nunjucks, just read the first simple example. Don't worry about getting all too complicated. Okay, classic server-side rendering. Okay, so after plain web pages in the early days of the web, we started with server-side rendering. What would happen then was many servers and frameworks, okay, used to keep or would keep information in databases. That could be most of the site's contents were kept in databases. Okay, this information would then be taken out of the databases and then used to create templates, web pages via template engines. Okay, software that would take that data and combine it to produce nice HTML with all the information in it. Okay, so this was one of the early uses of template systems in the web. Other uses, one that we've already seen, is for static site generation. And one that we're not going to cover in this class because we're going to be using React is client-side rendering, where you're actually using templates in the client. Okay, so we met Express before. It's an extremely popular micro framework, HTTP framework, server framework. Okay, many different template systems can work with Express. Nunjucks is the one that we use with our static sites. It's very easy to use with Express.js. So let's take a look. Okay, so in my very first example, let's take a look what we have in here. We're bringing in Express, creating our Express app, bringing in Nunjucks, configuring Nunjucks to tell it where we're going to keep the templates. Okay. Then we set up the host. We set up a couple pieces of information. We set up the host IP address with the loopback address, host port number, and a name. We took all that stuff and we put it into a JavaScript object. Okay. Now, we have a get method, one get method to the root path, okay, and the function that handles it calls res_render. So response render, not response send, not response JSON, okay. This is going to use and tell Express to go use the template engine, okay. Notice here, Nunjucks and Express get combined here in the configuration, Express app, okay? So Nunjucks knows how to talk to Express, okay? And Express knows how to use Nunjucks, okay? So it's part of that configuration, okay? From then on, we don't need to do anything fancy, okay? You don't see any more calls to Nunjucks in here. What you do see is a call to a badly named template, hello HTML, instead of njk like we used, and we pass the data in for the template as an object. Okay, So what does the template look like here? A very simple template. HTML5, doc type, HTML, the head, okay, in the, oh, we can put this stuff straight in the title. So this is in the head section. Hello name will be the page title, okay. And here in the main contents we have hi, variable substitution name, server running on, oh, so we're just going to give a nice little thing to say what's going on, okay. So let's take a look at the files. Okay, so here we are at Express examples. Here we have this template directory. The only thing it has in it is that little hello template, which was misnamed HTML, but it's not a plain HTML file. And then way down here is my template example. Okay, so you download the code for all the Express examples. It's there. Okay, it's just down at the bottom. Okay, so now let's try running it. Okay, so here we are in the proper directory, Express examples. Okay, we're going to run node template example.js. Have a little thing that tells me this weird loopback address 127.0.3.1 on port 7373. Let's go over to our browser. Instead of me having to type that again, I had this here, but it wasn't working. Let's try, oh, and in fact, let's bring up, oh, this should be fine on the bottom. Let's bring up our network window. Okay, we're doing networking now. Let's watch what's happening as we make this call, because this page doesn't do much. Okay, so let's visit this page. Okay, we make a get method, a get base. The request HTTP method is get. Okay, we send the request message. The method in it is get. It's getting just the plain path for the server. Okay, the slash path for the server, and we can see in our response headers. Okay, content type text HTML. We can see it tells us the date, and we see that it was powered by Express. In the request headers, okay, accept all sorts of things, and particularly text and HTML. And at the bottom here, we can see the user agent is Mozilla Firefox, if you can see the bottom of the screen. Okay, so the name got substituted in, the address stuff, and the port stuff. Okay, so a simple example, but nice. Okay, nice and easy. Now, how are we going to use this to generate websites? Okay, now we know there are multiple uses of templates. Okay, HTML content creation from data. We could just use it to hold some static HTML content, like including form stuff. We can use it to lay out pages with block substitution, site navigation, styling, etc. Okay. Unlike with static site generators, where we mostly use it to lay out pages, okay, we just had like one layout page or two. Unlike with static site generators, we may create a lot of templates to deal with items 1 and 2. Okay, just create some stuff to hold some content. Okay, so basically like a template that's a static template. Okay, or sorry, content from data. Okay, so like what we just saw, tells us things about the server or whatever, or some static HTML content, which might include a form, but it's just static HTML. It's like, why would we do that? Well, we don't want to repeat ourselves. Okay, and like with static site generators, we can have some templates, okay, act as a layout template. Okay, and it'll do things with block substitution. They call this inheritance, but don't let that freak you out in any shape, okay? You have one template that kind of does a bunch of layout, and it defines a bunch of blocks. Then in another template that extends that template, you just define those blocks, okay? So we're going to use this feature of Nunjucks, which we didn't use when we generated our static sites, okay? We are also going to use content creation via variable substitution and loops. Okay, so let's take a look. Here's a chronically styled site to inspire you to do better. Okay? My job as a professor is not to intimidate you with my great styling. Right. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is create a layout template. I'm really going to call this the base template. Other templates are going to inherit this. I'm going to put, if I like, common navigation and styling across pages in this template. Okay. I'm going to need different meta information like title and descriptions for different pages. So I'm going to create one of these quote unquote substitution blocks for this, blocks for it. Okay. Need different content for each page. So we're going to create a block thing. Okay. This is Nunjucks terminology. Okay. For this, but we'll just see it's a substitution thing. Okay. So let's take a look at this base.njk template. Okay. And let's switch to Express templates to take a look at, because we're going to see the number of templates we create is much larger now. Okay. Our base template is going to have the full HTML stuff in here. Doc type, HTML, head. But notice, look in the head. Okay. We've got meta care set. Okay, that's fixed. Link. Okay, that's the style sheet for every page on the site. But then we're going to have a block of meta stuff, I called it. I made up this name. Okay. It's a good name or a bad name, doesn't matter. I just made up that block. In that block, I can put anything I like. Default, if the other templates that extend this don't do it, they'll get the title Galactic Wind Tours. Okay. Now, here's a reference. Here's my nav. That's my navigation menu. Notice that since we're in a server rendered site now, we don't see a lot of .html pages. We're not referring to individual HTML. We're just referring to paths in the server. Okay, we're not dealing with static sites anymore. Okay, so if you're updating your old website, a static site, to make this dynamic site, you're going to probably have to clean up your references. Okay, now every page is going to have some different content, right? So I'm going to put that in this main section. Oh, I have a block here that'll get substituted in. Okay, Professor, this still sounds scary with inheritance. Okay, how about a simple about template? Okay, here, always say at the top is extends base. Don't have to do anything more. That's going to give us all the HTML boilerplate. Now we say block meta stuff. This will get substituted in for this block meta stuff. Okay, that's what they mean by inheritance. It's substitution. Okay, this will take its place. Block main. Okay, that empty main block. Okay, where was it? Right up here. See how this has nothing in it? That'll get substituted by really the content of the entire page. Now this is a static site or a static page. It really doesn't have anything, interesting in it. I mean, we could do something like if somebody's logged in, put their name up in the corner someplace, things like that. But basically this is a static site. But notice by using templates here, we greatly reduce the amount of redundant stuff we had to put in. Okay? Just like we did with static site generators. Okay? But in this case, okay, being a slightly different way that we organize things. This is how we handled changing out what would be the metadata in the head. Okay, this is how we handled swapping out the main contents. Okay, now how will we set up our servers? Okay, the structure that we're going to have here, okay, it's going to consist of, here's our server code, okay, then we're going to have templates that get rendered by the template engine. Then we're going to have this public directory that contains, oops, that's just a CSS file, contains CSS and other assets like images. Okay. Obviously, node modules are npm packages, package.json, and such like that. Okay. So public directory, static assets for the website. You can call it something else. You just have to configure the Express plugin for it. Okay, so let's see how we do that. Setting up our server. Express, require Express, create the Express app. Use Express static public. What does this do? This comes before anything else. Okay, so that means when a request comes in to Express, the first thing it's going to do is look for anything that matches, whose path portion of the URL matches something in this public this public directory. If it does, it will serve that back. Okay, so we're looking here for the CSS stuff first. Okay, so you can't have something with the same name here as a path that you're trying to have your server service. Okay, so this gets looked at first. Okay, serving our about page. How do we do that? Okay, the about page doesn't take any data. Can I still use the render? Yeah, because we're using that inheritance stuff. Okay, what we don't do is we're not feeding it any information, right? Usually it would be template name, JavaScript object containing all sorts of info for the template to enter. Okay, so look, this is very simple looking. Okay, get about. Okay, we're responding to the get method in the request. Okay, and we respond by telling it we render our template and send that back. Okay, so that's how to read that. Okay, now let's see if we can get that to work. Okay, blah 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 blah. Okay, node server JS. Okay, let's go over here. Let's launch network. Okay, we're going to go to, and we can see, here's the home page. We didn't even talk about how this got put together. But this got put together in the exact same way as the about page. So let's go to the about page. Notice you see all these calls going in. Okay, all of them were successful except favorite icon wasn't found. Why did it go look for it? The browser always tries to ask for it so it has something to put up in the tab. Okay, we didn't define one. Okay, everything else was found. Okay, now we're going to try clicking about us. Notice the URL. Okay, localhost blah blah about node.html. This is served up. Okay, this is being served up by our server. Okay, we can see all the transaction stuff going on here. Okay. Now, data in templates. The Galactic Wind Tour people offer two types of tours, physical tours and virtual tours. Okay. So I have a bunch of tour data samples. Okay. This is, okay, This is once again temporary templates tours right here. Okay. This is data, temporary data on the server side, because I don't want to bother with the database yet. Okay. But it's easy to go from doing temporary data like this in JSON to doing stuff with a database. Okay, that's one of the nice things. So that's my sample tour data. Okay. Now my tour template, once again, it extends the base template. Okay, I put in meta stuff and things like that. Now the block main. Okay, look at this. For tour and tours.vert tours. Okay, I'm going through my virtual tours. I'm going to list those guys out. Tour name and tour date. Okay, so this is the case where I'm creating a list. Okay, so outline list here. Okay, the loop of the template is going to create a bunch of LIs. Okay, here's a section for physical tours. Okay, so let's double check what the data looks like again. Oh, it's a big object with a subpiece, virtual tour, vert tools, tours, by tours. Okay, so hence that's why it's a dot, tours dot vert tours. Okay, so this is the sample tour data I'm going to read in. Okay, then I'm going to use this. Okay, see the tours dot by tours. Okay, now let's see the main program that handles that, combining the data. I read in all that data, okay, into one big tours object that has two different types of tours in it, and each of those types of tours, okay, is a big list. Then, notice, oh, I need to be able to get to things by their proper names. This always happens here. You always want to make sure that you're getting a good match, okay. If I handed tours over to here, I wouldn't be able to get a good match in my template, okay, because it's going to look for, okay, tours, okay. Different ways of doing this, okay. Just make sure things match up with whatever you define in there and outside, okay. So that's our combining. Oops, here it is, but let's see it ourselves, okay. So let's go to coming tours. Now, how can we tell that this is different than an app? Okay, when we switch to this, it made a call to tours. Okay, what you don't see is, you see tour CSS, so that's a style file for this tour page. Okay, but what you don't see is you don't see any other requests to go get data from the server. Okay, so if we were doing a React app and we went to a tour component, most likely we'd see extra calls to go actually get the data, extra gets to go get the data that would then be brought in and then on the client would be populated. Here, we're producing this all on the server, taking the load off the client. Okay. Okay. We haven't covered form processing, but let me just give you a sneak peek. Okay. We serve the page template with the form. Okay. Then we process form submission. Then we provide a response to form submission. Okay. So we're going to have at least a one-page template with a form on it. Then we're going to have a path on the server. Well, first we need a path on the server to deliver this page. Then a path on the server to do some form processing. And then we need at least to have some kind of template page for doing the response to the form submission. Okay? So let's say we're going to do newsletter sign up. Okay, somebody wants to sign up to receive our newsletter. Okay, we're going to come up with a form that has an action news sign up. What does this mean? That means when they click the button to submit the form, this is going to call go to the URL with the method get. Okay, it's going to make a request to the news sign up. This is a relative URL with the method get. Okay, so we're going to need a handler on news sign up. So that's okay. Then we're going to have a thank you, extra thank you template to return the results. Okay, so this is a preview. We're going to cover this in more detail. So here's the newsletter form. Okay, it's got a bunch of labels and inputs, okay, etc., etc. Okay, all that good stuff. Well, let's take a look at the good stuff. Newsletter sign up. Okay, so here's this form. First name, me. Last name, you. Email, something at edu. Hear about us from newspaper. Wow, that's rare. Even still is rare in radio. Okay. Now, so that's the form. Okay, and this is going to render that. Oh, sorry. Okay, so when we went to newsletter sign up, notice this says localhost newsletter. Okay, now we're going to have a path. Okay. We're going to have a path for processing that form. Okay, the form says send me to news sign up and use a get method. Okay. Okay, so this is that path, news sign up. Now, in the request are a bunch of query parameters. Okay, we're going to take those because they correspond to what's in the form. We're going to just push this onto our list of newsletter subscribers. Then on the server side, we're going to push out the current list and we're going to send back to the user thanks with information about the query. Oh, I'm going to fill that back in. Okay, so here's my thank you template. Okay, thanks for signing up. Thanks, first name, last name, you've subscribed to our newsletter, also confirming that you heard about us from How Did You Hear, etc. Okay. So there's the rendered sign up form, which we saw. Let's watch this work though. Okay. In up close and personal. So we're at newsletter. We're going to hit submit. Okay. And look at this. News sign up. When we hit submit, it took us to news sign up. It showed us up here, this is what we call the query portion of the URL, which we learned about. We see all that information, first name, last name, me, you, email, some, blah, 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 edu, out here, radio. All that got sent back. What did they send back to us? Okay. In response, they sent back, in response to that query, they sent back, thanks for signing up. Thanks, me, you. You've been subscribed to our newsletter. Okay. So a little beyond what we've covered on the HTML side, but shows you the kind of things we need, and that's why we end up making a lot of templates. Okay. Simple templates to show various pieces. Okay. So I don't want anybody getting all worried when they hear about inheritance with templates. Not with Nunjucks. Easy to use. It's just block substitution. Okay, and it just has the extends keyword at top. All right, let's go build some websites.